Information Lifecycle Management is really the study and the discipline of looking at information and understanding that there's a life cycle, that the value to information changes as it moves throughout the organization, as it ages, for example, and understanding that your business processes should change around the value of that information, and also your IT processes should change. You want to make sure that your most valuable information is available on your most expensive resources, but when information is no longer usable or not as usable to the business, you want to make sure that information is dealt with appropriately. So that's really where ILM is looking at it from a cradle to a grave standpoint, that there's a beginning and an end to really the usefulness of information. If you look at companies in general, they do a pretty poor job of really managing information. When we talk to our customers, that so many of our customers have a junk drawer of information. You just keep on throwing more storage at it, you keep on doing the same thing, and your information gets more and more every day. Your information overload gets more and more every day. I mean, we all talk about in this society, it's so easy to go get a bunch of information brought to our attention, but is it the right information? Is it useful information? Is it actionable type of information? So most companies, because they treat all information the same, they don't have a life cycle around that, that's why we're putting this conference together, so that companies can understand what's the benefit and value of really starting strategically managing information, and there's value to both the business and there's value to IT about really managing information. Most of the attendees are CIOs, IT leaders, directors, IT managers, and what they'll learn is what are the tactical infrastructure things that need to be done to start managing information. I mean, first of all, they'll understand the high-level messaging of information lifecycle management, why there's a benefit to them and why there's a benefit to the business, but then they'll start learning the tools and techniques and strategies that you can put in place to start managing this information right. You know, an example would be, instead of having all your information in one high expensive storage bucket, you can put tiered storage in place. And so you can have your most valuable information in a tier 1 type of storage, your secondary type of information into a tier 2 types of storage, and then have a tier 3 types of storage that you're really archiving information off to meet compliancy and e-regulation types of issues. Well, they'll learn the latest, tricks and techniques and tools to really be able to manage that efficiently. There's really 3 benefits to the business. The first benefit is there's a certain amount of cost associated with that infrastructure that has to be put in place. The IT guys will learn what that infrastructure is, how to manage that infrastructure, but there's a cost associated with that. So in order to get the most bang for your buck and to get the most value out of that infrastructure cost, that's the first benefit to the business. By really having a strategy around it and managing it, you'll make sure you're putting your dollars in the right place, instead of putting dollars in the wrong place or spending too much money in certain areas. An example I'd like to use is if you have all of your information in high-tier storage, high-cost storage. To have that information into that is a cost to the business, compared to breaking your information out into a secondary tier and into an archive tier. There's lower cost on those tiers, and so there's a savings to the business that comes back. So that's the number one, or that's the first benefit. And you have to have that floor before you can do anything else. If your infrastructure isn't in place, you can't do these next couple steps. The second benefit to the business is really having the right information to the right people at the right time. We all know about the information overload and about actually having all of this information in front of us, but so many times that information isn't relevant to what I'm doing today, or it's not relevant to what I need at that particular time. So if you start managing information and put information into categories or classifying in such a way that now the right person in the business is having the right information, then you start making better business decisions. And you really start increasing your efficiency in your organization, and you start really making better business decisions that add to your bottom line, or subtraction of your bottom line, or adds to your top line growth. And then the last benefit is really around that top line revenue growth. is if I have information about my customers, if I have information that I'm managing around my marketplace, and I start leveraging that information to improve my relationship with them, is I'm going to increase my top line sales. There's an example of a prospect that we're talking to. It's a retail organization that doesn't track their interactions with their customers. And I've been a customer of theirs for a number of years, and they don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about my spending habits. They don't know anything about how I interact with them as a vendor and me as a customer, where if you start really mining that information and have a strategy around that and start making better business decisions and better marketing decisions of, I want to touch my customer in this particular way. I want to make sure my customer understands my messages. I want to understand how my customer functions, how my customer interacts with me, so I make sure that my organization is meeting the customer on his terms instead of making the customer meet me on my terms. I mean, those are all some of the benefits that you get out of really managing information, is you understand your marketplace, you understand your customers better because you start to use that information, and then you start really having a competitive advantage over your competitor who's really not looking at it. He's looking at it just the same way you are today. Is there's too much stuff there, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to do anything. I mean, really, if you look at information lifecycle management and a strategy around managing information, it expands really all verticals and all company sizes. But at the end of the day, is if information is at the core of your business, then you'll benefit from these types of practices. If you look at a small customer, a small company, a lot of times there's not enough information that they're trying to manage, so they sort of have a handle on that. But when you look in the mid-size and the larger organizations, there's definitely an advantage to managing information, both from a cost-saving standpoint and from growing your top-line revenue.
For more information on strategic data management, call 219-0428, write info@sdmindy.com, or visit us on the web, sdmindy.com.